Let's talk about Goro Miyazaki. Well, I was looking at Goro's various interviews and producer Suzuki's comments and noticed that there is an interesting structure to their relationship. I saw the trailer of Tales from Earthsea on television the other day, and I was so disappointed because it was Ghibli-ish, but not Miyazaki-ish. Well, of course, he's not Hayao Miyazaki. It was that same old boring Ghibli film. I was thinking, I wish Hayao Miyazaki had done it himself and not this punk. I want to see more of Hayao Miyazaki's works, damn it! Forget Takahata! I was thinking, if this was Hayao Miyazaki, he would have made this dragon look so cool, and this town look awesome. The structures and the ideas are all so uninteresting and dull. So I didn't like Goro Miyazaki at that stage. To me, he was just a guy benefiting from his father's name, using his connection to join Ghibli, the most important studio in Japanese animation. To me, he was the bad guy. Suzuki was interviewed the other day. He insisted that there should be no editing, so this whole interview was posted somewhere online, and it was really interesting. First of all, the interviewer decided to cut out the part where Suzuki was criticizing Hayao Miyazaki. The part where he said, "No matter how hard I try to train young directors, Miyazaki destroys them all." So he destroyed them. Well, there's nothing to be surprised about. Of course he would. I saw the documentary on Princess Mononoke and saw the scene where Miyazaki takes the drawing from an animator and says, "This is why you're a nobody. You don't draw the hand, you just draw the knife in the hand. That's how you make it look fast." And he starts to draw himself. This shows his genius, but at the same time, you wouldn't want to work there, would you? Here you have a genius who you've wanted to become since you were a child, telling you every day that you are nothing. No one could stand that. That's why Ghibli never came up with a young, aspiring director. At one time, they were considering hiring Mamoru Oshii, but Oshii said, "No way." And they were also considering Hideaki Anno, but the Ghibli staff were very reluctant about the idea. They were like, "Anno? So it didn't happen. The Ghibli staff are a bit snobbish in a way. Anyway, all the young directors were discouraged and depressed by Hayao Miyazaki. Keep that in mind. Among Miyazaki's previous works, well, this is back to the story about Miyazaki destroying young directors, but Kiki's Delivery Service, and what else? Not Princess Mononoke. A bit before that, there was a piece he didn't intend to direct. Someone else was making it, but during production, Miyazaki intervened and said, "You are not capable of this." And he made it his own project. That's why the younger directors don't grow. Sorry, oolong tea please. There's no way they can. He's snatched 2 films away from the younger directors thus far, and he's constantly yelling at the team. When they decided to do an adaptation of Earthsea, Miyazaki said, "No one in Ghibli can do it." But when someone would ask him, "Then why don't you do it?" he'd say, "No way!" He's a handful, but a genius. Such a handful. He's hard to deal with, but he's Ghibli's only weapon. Ghibli is like North Korea using nuclear weapons as its only defense. Miyazaki always wanted to do the piece Earthsea. He has been saying that for the last 30 years. About 30 years ago, he wrote repeatedly to the American writer Ursula K. Le Guin, who was regarded as a likely Nobel Prize winner at the time. He desperately wanted to do this piece. He was like, I want to do it. I want to do it. But Miyazaki always got this impolite reply saying, Japanese anime could never do this piece justice. 20 years ago, Miyazaki made his last plea. But Le Guin said no, and he gave up. But a few years ago, maybe about 2 years ago, Le Guin apologized to him by letter. She said, I was wrong. Please forgive me. Hayao Miyazaki is a true genius, and I would love for him to do this piece. But when Miyazaki got the letter, aside from the reason that he was busy, he was already at the height of his career. Like the cartoonist Osamu Tezuka, who lost all his teeth by clenching too hard while drawing his manga, Miyazaki works intensely on all his films. It causes a lot of pressure for everyone in the studio when the president of the firm works the hardest. What kind of a president is that? I wouldn't want to work there. No way. It was really hard for him to make that decision. But Miyazaki said, sorry, I can't. But then the producer, Suzuki, goes, well, Hayao Miyazaki may have rejected the offer, but we, Ghibli, have not. Suzuki sent Le Guin a message saying, okay, Ghibli will accept your offer. Le Guin thought Hayao Miyazaki had accepted the offer and was like, yay! And was overjoyed. But now what? Ghibli held a number of meetings. Miyazaki would say things like, I'm not going to do it. But if not me, who? This is ridiculous. You should reject the offer. And Goro Miyazaki, the director of the Ghibli Museum, who happened to be there, ended up accepting the job to direct the film. On December 26th, during the Christmas holidays, the Miyazakis held a family meeting about the issue. In this meeting, Hayao Miyazaki said to Goro, you don't have any talent, any ability, any passion to direct. You have nothing. You could never do Earthsea. Hayao and Goro haven't spoken to each other ever since. This story is a legend. And we even know the exact date of this meeting. But Suzuki insisted that Goro should be the director. Miyazaki is stubborn, but he always gives in to Suzuki. And Miyazaki was told not to say bad things about Goro, at least in the studio or in public. What a father! He's a terrible genius and a terrible father. So Goro signed up as director, but somebody had to explain to Le Guin that it's not Hayao, but it is his son that is directing. They eventually decided that Goro Miyazaki would go, that the producer Suzuki and Goro would go together. And then Hayao Miyazaki interrupts again. To make things clear, I'd like to add that Miyazaki always objects to ideas. It's not just about his son. He objects to everything. He said, why are you taking Goro with you? He's an incompetent director, so he should at least be in the studio. You should go by yourself. Suzuki retaliated with, well, you should come too, since you rejected the offer. Miyazaki couldn't compete with that, and he was eventually dragged to America.